the podcast Empowering People, a show dedicated to helping folks find their path to success. Sponsored by Hypnosis Works LLC and Realty MD. Your hosts, Dave Membrila and Martha Dabdu. Take it away, folks. Hello out there in video land. My name is David Membrila, owner of Hypnosis Works, and with my co-host,
Martha Dabdu with Realty MD.
And we are here for our first actual episode of Empowering People, where we hope to give people inspiration, hope, get them on the right road to success, whatever success may be. I mean, a success could mean anything to anybody. It could mean making more money. It could mean finding a better job. It could be as simple as getting back into school if you ended up dropping out or whatnot, getting your GED, finishing whatever the project is. We hope to inspire you and to do that. Our initial episode, Martha brought up a fact that she was, how did you call it? You were called a gangbanger?
I was called a Mexican gangbanger from the South Side.
South
Side, yep.
So this whole show is dedicated to those who have ever felt oppressed in some way or another because of your race, your religion, your beliefs, whatever that may be, and money. I mean, money issues, being in a certain poverty class. That's what we're geared to. Before I introduce our first guest, who's sitting there very quietly. I'm gonna let him tell you a story. But I piggybacking on what Martha said, I too had an episode where I was considered a gangster. I got pulled over in a Jeep one day by a police officer who I had heard was notorious at the time for racial profiling, and he had actually accused me, or actually asked if my Jeep was involved in a drive-by shooting that was on the south side the night before. Now, there's nothing spectacular about my Jeep other than it was a typical brown Jeep with a Mexican driving it. But to justify the stop, he had to come up with that. He accused me of speeding when I was three houses from the house I was turning into. So I had to ask him, what was I going to do, roll into my front yard? So it became evident that it was just racial profiling, and it shouldn't have happened. I talked to a few police officer friends of mine who they knew the gentleman. They said, well, okay. And that happened. So again, this whole show is dedicated to empowering people. Any situation you may have, any battles you are looking for, or getting into that you want to conquer, any obstacles. And again, I come from a background of real estate, education, and now hypnosis, so I can help out in any way, shape, or form. Our first guest, is an old friend of mine. I watched this young man grow up, and I'm going to let him tell you his story, and I'm going to fill the gaps of anything he doesn't tell you. Say hello to Fernando Valencia. Yay! Take it away, Fernando. Tell us your story, your humble beginnings, how you grew up, how the family grew up, and take it away.
Wow. Thank you, first of all, David, for being on your show. It's a great pleasure, a great honor to be here. Speaking about positive things, I am a firm believer on you surround yourself with good people and you live a positive life. There's really no excuse for not to be in that sector of being in a positive environment. I grew up in the south side of town. Not that it's a bad thing, but very humble family. My dad a plumber, my mom stay-at-home mom, and very rich as far as the upbringing that I was brought up with. To me, that's a millionaire status, even though we didn't have it physically. So people need to remind themselves that you're millionaires with parents and the culture and the discipline that you're brought up with. That's worth any amount of dollar that we could speak of.
That's the first level of success, right?
Exactly.
There.
Good point. That's exactly.
And remaining
exactly
humble.
It. Sure.
Still.
Growing up, like I said, I know what it's like to grow up with hand-me-down pants from my brothers and things like that. And, my dad worked very hard, supported our family, gave us all that our needs were needed to sustain in life, our home, our clothing, our food. And the structure of just being disciplined and trying to guide us to do the right thing. Our family is very musical, and as far as from my grandparents to my parents being musically inclined. Growing up in the musical environment, I remember my dad coming home with a truckload full of instruments, and from cellos to drums to trumpet, saxophone, all kinds of variety of instruments. And there was one violin that happened to suit my size, and I ended up getting stuck with that. I didn't want to play the violin because I said, oh, that's for sissies. I got teased a lot in school. But you know what? I will not look back on just taking that opportunity to learn the instrument. My brother Jaime, I got to credit him for being my drill sergeant and teaching me the steps. He was playing the violin and taught me and pushed me, and which led me into mariachi. At 6 years old, I started playing at St. John's Church every Sunday with a group of older gentlemen. And no uniforms, we couldn't afford it. It was just kind of Mariachi San Juan. Later went to a youth group called Mariachi San Javier that I think a lot of people have forgotten about. It's not just those Changuitos Feos. There was Mariachi San Javier that was very accomplished at that time, I feel. And a lot of great musicians had come out of that group. And from there on, it grew on to playing mariachi continuously. My brothers and I, we formed Mariachi Valencia, a small group. We started playing at restaurants, bars, and at other various events. And growing up playing music has really been a gift of talent that I've been able to share to the people. And that's my musical background as far as in a nutshell, 25 words or less.
Yeah.
Well, and I got to mention that I remember seeing the family play at the Spanish Trail, the old Spanish Trail right off the freeway. And of course, him and his brothers were playing mariachi. They had a sister that sang with you guys.
Right.
And
Deliana.
yes, and Deliana sang, and it was great to see a family do it. And again, Fernando must have been you're older than Alex, and
I'm right behind you, David, so we're old.
yes. Yeah, but at the time he was about 12, 13 years old.
Sounds about right.
Back then.
Yeah.
And how many siblings?
There's 5 of us.
5 of you
We're all
guys.
musicians. And it's just a true blessing to be able to give him the talent to be able to go there and entertain people. And with that, I remember growing up quite humble. My parents did everything they could to make sure I went to college, went to the university. I wanted to be a doctor so bad, a medical doctor, and study microbiology, and it was tough. And if it wasn't for mariachi music, that's what kept gas in my tank. My parents were always there, but it was hard, so I tried to take care of myself. Music helped get me there. And I remember my goal was to always have $40 in my pocket. $40. I would not want to go below that. If I knew I went below that, I was in fear and of how I'm going to eat, how I'm going to put gas in my tank to get through college with the dream of being a medical doctor, a cardiologist. That got tired of being broke. Some friends of mine said, hey, let's go test for the police department. And I'm like, I don't want to be a cop. That's not me. So we went and tested. And I passed the test. I said, well, what? I'll give this a shot for a year or 2 max to kind of build my resume for med school and things like that. Well, I got used to having a paycheck. Now I needed to work. I needed a new vehicle. So I had bills. And so it kept getting further and further and further away. I joined the Tucson Police Department. I have 21 years of law enforcement under my belt with a retirement that I'm glad that I've done. It was a good job to have had. It took care of me, but I used that job for something else to get me where I needed to be today. And I've always had this.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. I got to say that he was one of the good cops. I forgot I told that story at the beginning. He was one of the good cops.
I would have still stopped you, though.
But Fernando's, I liked what he said about becoming a mariachi first. That was his vehicle to take him through the university, or at least get him to the university, at least get him, find a means that made it affordable for him to continue on his path. And again, being a police officer for so many years was a second vehicle to get him to where he is now. And that's why the biggest reason why I wanted him on the show is because, believe it or not, he was the one that inspired the idea for this show, because we were talking about this the other day when I went out to see him. And I'm going to get to that story in a minute. But I'm going to let him tell you where his path took him right after he retired from the police department. Or actually during, I believe, right?
Well, thank you, David. I'll try to make it brief. I know we're limited on time
No,
here.
don't worry about it.
But my intent, I was on the police force. It was paying my bills. It was keeping me and my family fed. It was a good thing, a good job to have had. I've seen a lot of things, a lot of good, a lot of bad. I've been through it all, life and death. It's pretty gruesome with it, that a lot of people don't really realize what we do out there. I love the police department. I wish they got the respect that they should be getting now. And but also, while in high school, I always told myself, I want to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. And my goal was 40 years old. I have always told myself, by the time I'm 40 years old, I want to be a millionaire. Well, it didn't happen until 3 years after. A little late, but if you reach for the stars and if you get the moon, you've succeeded. It took me 3 years longer before I start seeing my first million come in. And I started my business back in 1999 as a home builder, as a general contractor. I saw how that was working. I was building and selling, investing in properties, using real estate agents to help me accomplish that goal. And it started to work. I was now in a position to say, I need to leave the Tucson Police Department because my business needs me. I wasn't going to leave without anything, so I made sure I had my time in to get a retirement. I'm thankful and grateful for that, and which has now made me open my business to even other levels with multiple businesses licenses that we have under our belt, to where we're building casinos, plants, and whatnot. So my point here is to the listeners, you have to set goals. You got to have that passion. You got to have that burning desire. You have to think out of that box. The problem that we have is we're afraid to step out of that box. We're too comfortable. We're used to saying, oh, let's do the 40. And I'm not saying this is bad, people, please. We're too used to 40 hours a job. Our parents do a beautiful job, go to school, get a job, get educated, retirement. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That works for people. The way I look at it, it's your boss's job to give you a paycheck. It's your job to get rich. If you're poor, it's because you want to be poor. I don't care if you come from the south side, poor north side, poor, humble family. It's your fault. You can do it.
Fernando, I have a question for you. Kind of like when I started, right, that I wanted to be a Secret Service agent.
Okay.
Never in my wild thoughts would I have thought that, and I was explaining in the earlier show that I watched Charlie's Angels. So when I was little, I was like, I am going to be one of those women, right? Well, it did not turn out that way. My insurance agent called me up and said, hey, Martha, you'd be a wonderful insurance agent. And I'm like, that's not what I grew up to want to be as an insurance agent, right? Anyhow, I'm like, what is it all about? They gave me the opportunity to own my own business and start it from scratch. And they're like, well, why do you want to start your own business? And I'm like, because I'm hungry for success.
There you go.
Right? So that hungerness, now I turn back and I look at my career and I'm like, would I have been a Secret Service agent? Did God know exactly what he had destined this whole time? In the insurance industry and in the investments, I was a #1 agent out of 4,500 agents in all the states, #1 life writer in Arizona. So everybody wanted Martha's. But I still felt like there was still more for me to do. I'm always trying to see what else. I couldn't do real estate because I had my investment licenses. The minute they said, we're not gonna do the investment licenses anymore, I jumped on my test. So I guess my question for you is, I analyzed my path and where I'm at now. You mentioned you wanted to be a cardiologist, right?
That was my dream. That was my...
Do you think, and it's not impossible, you know, the years have gone by. Do you think, though, that if you would have gotten through that path, you know, where you're at now, you can appreciate now, or that was just the ganas and the hungerness to get you through the Tucson Police Department, get a paycheck in your pocket, right?
Okay.
But the direction didn't happen that way. You didn't become a doctor.
Yeah, you said it right on the head there earlier, Martha. You got to have that hunger. I call it passion, that burning desire. And it's not about greed. It's not about showing off. It's about being successful. And God puts us in this path and maybe told you, maybe you shouldn't be a secret agent. Maybe you would have gotten in a serious encounter and not be here today. So it's all the chapters in life that it happens for a reason. I'm not looking back. I'm glad I chose being a police officer. I enjoyed it, and it was a good career for me. I'm not looking back and regretting it. I'm not regretting myself as far as saying I didn't make it to be a cardiologist, because I'm doing well now. So there's no regret towards that. You have to find what you believe in. You have to believe in yourself first, develop a plan, and people, the bottom line is, it's not that hard. If I can do it, from, you know, growing up very humble and barely being able to squeeze 2 nickels to make a dime sometimes, you know what? You can do it too. Believe in yourself, develop a plan, come up with the idea, quit believing that money's going to come and success the easy way. That's part of the problem. Everybody wants to do these things where they think they're going to get rich overnight, and that everything's owed to them. You have to work for it.
What can we tell these younger generations now, right, that don't want to work for things? They expect to have all these successes. They don't see what you and I and Dave and I have gone through in the past, right? I mean, I used to volunteer at pretrial services and tell them, I'll take comp time. I'll come in. I'm so excited to see all these people get arrested and come through just to analyze. I felt like I was on a TV show with all the excitement coming through, and I didn't care if I didn't get paid, but I wanted to learn. So for me, doing these internships and learning and getting ahead and having that initiative was a pusher. Here nowadays, I see that there's a lot of people and younger generations that want the success, want the money, but they don't want to work for it.
What you did is you just self-answered that. It's called work. It's energy. People are lazy. Unfortunately, especially I'm seeing it in our younger field. It's hard finding good tradespeople with skills. You don't need to go to college and be this high-tech professor or scientist, whatever. We need good mechanics. We need good welders. Yes. We need electricians. We need those people. We need each other. I told you earlier, I can't sell these $1 million homes without people like you going out there and spearheading it and coming in with the sales on it. What wealth is, it's a transfer as well of wealth. I build something or I buy something, I do something with it, I sell it, and then it goes back to you, and you do it, and it's just a transfer of what that's success, And people forget about the basics. Just work and put energy into it.
One of the reasons that I invited Fernando on the show, as I mentioned earlier, is that he had given me the inspiration to create this podcast, and when I started talking about it with Martha, she was all on board. Because he's seen what has happened in our community as a police officer, because he's seen what has happened in society with years of his service to the community. He knows that there needs to happen in our schools where people come in and talk to the kids about work ethic and about. And again, this is about success, and success could be minuscule. I mean, if you do have a problem with motivation, if you are a little bit lazy, that can be changed with just a decision. You are a decision away from being a multimillionaire if that's what you want to do. You're a decision away from getting that job. You're a decision away from getting your GED, or you're a decision away from being a straight A student, whatever that may be. So, baby steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Success could be measured in different forms. And when I was talking to Fernando, or actually when he was talking to me about the idea, and he's going to organize this soon, where he has different people come in and talking to kids in school, it made me reflect on his own success, because he was a successful police officer. I mean, he could have been a detective if he wanted. And then when I started seeing the homes it was building, oh my God, these were incredible, beautiful homes, Zachary Development. And then he started building it for other people. And then the next thing you know, I'm hearing he's building a hotel at the casino. Here's what happened the other day. We're building a statue for Dr. Fernando Valencia, the retired mariachi teacher from Davis Bilingual School. And we have to have a pedestal on it, and it has to be concrete, and that's what the statue is going to sit on. I didn't know anybody that could build that, so the first thing I did is I'm going to call Fernie, and so I called Fernando, and he says, hey, I'm out of here at Manzanita Park, and you come down here and talk to me. I said, well, sure, how do I find you? He says, don't worry about it, you'll see the machines. So I hadn't been to Manzanita in about 5-6 years, and there was an entire clearing of what was once desert, and machines, caterpillars, all kinds of big, huge machines. There was one of those rock builders, the rock breakers.
You went in there bouncing.
And in fact, I couldn't even see him. He says, where are you? I said, I'm over here. I see the truck. No, I can't see you. And then I see him just like I'm looking through a telescope trying to get my eyes to focus on, oh, I see you now. You're on the top of the hill. I went over there to talk to him, and I was just amazed at the amount of machinery that was there. And he was telling me, what are you guys doing? Well, we're building a couple of soccer fields and this and that. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've never seen soccer fields being built. This is remarkable. All these machines machines, moving rock, moving dirt, doing this. Yeah, you can build a pedestal.
Hey, do I qualify?
You were approved that day,
We laughed
Fernando.
about, yeah, okay, I think you can do it. So, I mean, when he talks about major projects, he's not talking about just building a house or building a duplex. His construction team is doing stuff in Tucson and Phoenix and various communities. So I got to applaud you for that. That's just
Thank
awesome.
you, David. I appreciate that. You know, do know that this isn't about me. It's about all of us. I want us all to be successful, and God wants us to be successful. I want my friends, family, people that I just meet, everyone to be successful. And there's many ways to that. Doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire. Doesn't mean you have to have a dynasty business. It doesn't mean you have to be a doctor. Just do the right thing, clean. If you want to work get a successful career going on, that's fine. It's whatever suits you. But don't be afraid to think out of that box is what I'm getting at. You know, it's that we feel stuck. We feel that we're not allowed to even say the word rich or wealthy. We feel that we're just maybe it's part of our culture. I don't know. I remember I was talking to a nephew of mine. He just got his master's degree at the U of A. And he's doing quite well. He's young. And I asked him, hey, so that sounds very, very good. I'm proud of you. Where do you go next? He goes, well, I'm just going to stay at this level to see what happens. I said, well, do you want to get rich? No, Theo, I think I'm happy where I'm at. I said, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what suits you, that's fine. Don't be afraid, though, to not have to do your own thing. I don't care if you're selling thumbtacks. Do it. You're going to fall. You're going to fail. Fear is your friend. Fear protects us from making hasty decisions. Failure teaches us how to learn and jump on that horse and keep going again. Those things can be your friend. There's risk and there's risky. Don't take the risk. Risk could be a bad move or risky business. There's a difference. There's bad debt. There's good debt. Depends how you use it and how you discipline yourself on how to make those things work for you. Stay away from the negativity of people, especially. I've always said, pick 5 people that you hang around with daily or mostly with. Your family, there's so many of us, count as one. That's who you are. You better have someone, hopefully, that's business-minded, spiritually minded. If you hang around nothing but bad, that kind of equates to where you're high probability
There
of
needs
being.
to be a balance.
So think about the 5 people that you hang around with. There should be someone in that circle, and hopefully it's all positive influences to get you where you need to be.
It's called the power of association. You're going to become with who you hang around with. If you're a student in high school, you want to get good grades, hang around those that are getting good grades. Because at the same time, you hang around those that are ditching class, before you know it, you're ditching class. If you hang around those that are failing classes, before you know it, you're failing classes. Same thing as an adult.
Absolutely.
If you're, it's nice to party and have a good time, but if you're hanging around folks that are always in the bar, before you know it, that's where you're spending your time. And again, it's not a bad thing as long as you're drinking responsibly and making sure nothing happens, getting home safely. But if you want to change, again, success is just a step away. It's a decision away.
As I would say, it's a pulse away, Dave.
Just a pulse
Just
away.
a pulse away.
Just like buying a home from Martha Dabdu, just a pulse away. But all you have to do is make that decision to let your heart move in that direction.
I love it. I love it. I love that you are here with us, Fernando.
Thank you.
I love that passion, that expression, your humbleness, your background, how this can help anybody out there. Don't be afraid to reach out to us. We're going to provide resources for you guys. We want to help. We want to make a difference. Fernando today, without knowing, is going to make a difference for many lives out there just by hearing him share his experiences. And we're all about helping you thrive. We're all about empowering you. And we're going to be a resource for you guys.
And we're going to close out this show. Again, we'd like to thank Fernando Valencia from Zachary Developments for coming on our show. If you need anything built, if you need a pedestal built, find them.
A soccer field.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to email, or you'll see our podcast. Get a hold of Martha or I, and hopefully we'll help you on the right track. Whether it's getting back in school, whether it's preparing for that job interview, or buying a house, or needing to change some bad habits. Thank you again, Fernando, for coming out.
Thank you, David.
And this is the conclusion of our first episode of
Empowering People.
That's what we're going to call it.
Yep.
And so stay tuned for the next one. Thank you again.
Thank
you very much.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.